Okay, so this is the last in a series of three different ways of importing surveys into Vectorworks. We already covered importing PDFs, which is the most common. Then we dealt with importing an image file uh, survey. And then now we're dealing with importing a DWG. So let's talk about this DWG for a second. That is a file extension that is part of the AutoCAD family. And there's many different products that AutoCAD produces, and they all have the DWG extension. Fortunately for landscape designers, DWGs can be imported into Vectorworks and actually exported, but we'll deal with that in another video. At any rate, what we're dealing with here is a project that has a lot of different components in it, and it's right on a riverfront area, which you'll see in a minute. And they need some help with some design. At any rate, what we want to do is normally what we do is set up a couple of new layers in our organization palette, and also some new classes to deal with this. But as you'll see in a few minutes, really is not going to make a big difference because when you bring it in, it creates its own layer, and it also creates, it has attached to it all different classes. In the AutoCAD world, um, there are no classes, there are only layers. So what Vectorworks does is whatever the whole file is, that becomes one layer, and all of the AutoCAD layers become Vectorworks classes, which you'll see in the dialog box in just a minute. So anyway, here we are. I'll just go to File, Import Single DXF DWG. That's what they are. And as I've mentioned before, just to give you a quick look again, I try to keep everything very organized. So the name of my business has its own folder, and I know that this is a current project that I'm working on, and I know what the name of the project is, and everything that has to deal with this project is in this folder. It's a very simplified system, but it really works for me. I know where everything is. I don't have to spend hours searching for something. Anyway, here it is, and now I'll just open it. Okay, so now let's talk about this dialog box. What it's going to do is these are the primary settings, and this first field is talking about determining what the settings are, and what this means is what um, what unit of measure is used in this, and I'm really not sure. Normally, AutoCAD is in inches, but I'm really not sure because this is a pretty large space. But even if it doesn't come in correctly, um, we can set them to, we can rescale the entire thing at a later time. Then the paper space units, I really usually leave it right here by layout, which is the default. The model space, I want it to come in at 1:1, just makes it easier. And I want it to center after the import. If I know ahead of time that the DWG is been geo-referenced, I could actually use the world origin instead, but I know that it's not. And then many DWGs today, particularly if it's from a surveyor, well, the there'll be 2D and 3D data. Okay, and you can have the option to do 3D, 2D, and 3D, or all 2D. We're going to not deal with 3D right now. We're just going to deal with the 2D. I'll come back to 3D in a different video when I talk about site modeling. But anyway, I'm just going to make everything 2D right now. Now talking about the graphic attributes, map colors to line weights. So in AutoCAD, the way that they deal with line weights is by the color of the line. So we're just going to have it all come in the same exact line weight, and we'll have to make adjustments later on, depending on what it is we want it to look like. Then any dashes will have 0.02 segment. That's fine for now. We can always change that again. And then all of the layers, as I was saying before, there are no classes in AutoCAD, so all of the layers will be brought in as classes. Now, to help manage this a little bit, you've seen me do the naming technique before, where I try to group similar things together. So you have the option here to add a prefix, and you'll see how that comes into play in when we look after it's been imported. And then any objects, the points, pretty much this is dealing with loci, which we'll deal with. It's much more important when we're dealing with 3D. So when we come back to site modeling, we'll deal with that. And the block attributes, grouping the record fields together, same thing. Really, this has to do with the data that comes along with it. And we're not going to deal with that right now. That'll be when we do site modeling as well. So we don't need to do anything about that. So I'm just going to click OK. And here is the line colors. And you can actually go in if you wanted to replace the colors with something else if you wanted to. You can change the thickness if you know ahead of time. I really don't know what they are, but I'm just going to leave it as is and deal with it some other time if I need to. And so it comes in, and there it is, all done for us. You can see it comes in pretty nicely. But as with every other input, the first thing we need to do is to check the scale. And all right, this looks a little hinky because this is supposed to be 100 feet, not 20, and this is supposed to be 200, not 20. Okay. So I'm just going to use my line tool. What's nice is that my snap to object is on, so I'm getting the snaps. I can also put on my snap to intersection, and you can see that I get my snap points. That makes it easier to deal with things. So 0, and that's supposed to be 40 feet. And you can see right there it says 3 feet 4 inches. So this is not correct. So in the past we've only scaled one thing at a time. But now these are many objects. Let's say this is, yep, this is 2200 objects. So I want them all to scale at the same time. So I actually have it as no selection. And what I'm going to do is modify, scale objects. And I'm going to go, what I always use, symmetric by distance. I'm going to use the here to there tool. I'll come right down to this nice graphic scale. Click here, click here. And the current distance is the 3 feet 4 inches. We want it to be 40 feet. So you can see here, I'll probably get a warning also, but you can see here it says entire drawing and scale text. Yes, we want to scale the text. so it scales the same, and we want to do the entire drawing. Ooh, what a noise. Are you sure you want to scale the entire drawing? Yes. But at least it gives you that warning. And again, I have nothing selected. So when I come to my navigation button here of fit to objects, it will select all the objects and fit it to it, and there we are. Okay, it's looking pretty good. But let's take a look at what happened in the organization panel. So I'm going to open it by clicking here. And you can see in the design layer, the design layer 1 is what's by default. And then the DWG came in as and created, that whole file created another layer, which is great. And then you can see here in the naming technique, they put it actually came in with survey as a prefix, dash, and then 0. It's got all the different classes and their names that's associated with this file. So everything that we need is in there. Okay, click OK. And okay, the last thing is sometimes this happens to have a lot of information in it, but not an overabundance. There's no structure or anything like that. There's no road per se. But sometimes there can be a little bit too much data, like, you don't really need it. It's just going to mess up your drawing. So you make a determination of what you want to keep or not keep. So right now it looks like, okay, this polygon right here is actually the 82 contour. And this looks like it's elevation point that the surveyor used. So I really don't need the elevation points for this. That probably would come in handy if I was doing the 3D, but I don't really need it. So I'm going to get rid of them, or I'm not going to really delete them. What I'm going to actually do is hide them, because at some point I may need them for something. So there's a tool right here called the visibility tool. Okay, you see right here. And when you select that, there's a couple of choices up here. In the first section, you can either choose classes or layers. So I'm going to leave it on classes for now. And you can make whatever it is you click on, you can make it visible, you can make it invisible, or you can make it grayed out. And I want them to be invisible. So anything that I click with this tool is going to make the class that I select invisible. Okay, so this is what I don't need, and you can see it all highlighted. It gives me the name of the class so that I know what it is that I'm going to do something with, and in this case make invisible. And I just click and they're all invisible. If I needed them, I could always come back to my navigation panel and find the elevation. It was this one right here, and just click it back on, and they were all back there again. So no need to worry about losing the data. Now, if you know what all these different names of these classes are, you can certainly just come in and make them invisible yourself. You don't need to use that tool, but I just find that tool very useful when I'm cruising around in the beginning of a work here. So let's see, these are points that I don't need right now. These are points that I don't need. And I think everything else on this particular file I need. And so that's it. I'm going to leave it. Thank you.